Hi, this is Mr. Nazarian. Our lesson objective today: I can add and subtract fractions with unlike denominators by replacing given fractions with equivalent fractions. It's 5th grade standard, numbers fractions A1. We have two unlike fractions here. They're called unlike fractions because their denominators are not the same. We have 1/2 plus 1/3. Now we can't just add this across because they're two different things that we're talking about. It's like, saying I have 4 apples and 6 oranges. How many do I have? Well, you have 4 apples and 6 oranges, right? They're two different things. So what we need to do is we need to make these two things that are different more alike. And we do that by finding equivalent fractions of each of the addends. So when we're looking at 1/2 and 1/3, and we want to find equivalent fractions of each of these where they'll have the same denominator, the first thing we need to figure out is what is the lowest common multiple of these two denominators. So in other words, if I'm counting by 2's and then I'm counting by 3's, what number are we going to land on that's the same first? There are many, an infinite amount of common multiples that they have. But to make it easier for us, we're going to find the lowest common multiple, the first one that they have in common. So I'm going to just start doing this, and I can do this in my head. I'm going to right now, just for giggles, I'm going to write it down to think of. So I'm going to count up to like the 5th multiple of 2 and see if we're anywhere close. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Right? So these are my multiples of 2. And then I'm going to do multiples of 3, the other denominator. 3, 6, 9, 12, 15. Okay. And what is a common multiple of 2 and 3? What is the lowest common multiple? That's right, 6, right? So as you can see here, 2 is not the same. There's no 2 down here. There's no 4 down here. There's no 3 up here. But look, 6 and 6. So that is going to be the lowest common multiple. If we kept going, we'd land on other ones. For example, 12 would be another multiple of 2, right, which is a multiple of 3, but it's the first one that's going to be the easiest for us to work with. So now that I know what I'm going to change these denominators to, that's a great place to get started. So what I like to do is I'll just put it right next to it. So I'm going to create an equivalent fraction right next to each one of these. So to change this, we know that we're going to have the denominators be 6. Okay. We're going to be adding with 6. So the question here, we'll start with this 1/2, is 1/2 is equal to how many 6? Well, what do we do to a 2 to make it a 6? 2 times what is 6? 3, right? So we know that to find an equivalent fraction, if we multiply the bottom by 3, what do we have to do to the top? That's right, we have to also multiply by 3. Remember, we have to do the exact same thing on the top and the bottom to get an equivalent fraction. So 1 times 3 is 3, so that means that 3/6 is equivalent to 1/2. It's the same thing. We're not changing the value. We still have what's worth 1/2, which is 3/6. And then we're going to add it to the equivalent of 1/3. Again, the question here is, how many 6 is 1/3? What do we do to a 3 to make it a 6? We multiply by 2. So what do we have to do on the top? That's right. We have to do the exact same thing, multiply by 2. So 1 times 2 is 2. So now that tells us that 2/6 is equivalent to 1/3. All that we need to do, and if we want to get these other ones kind of, whatever out of our way, because I don't want to get confused, or that's fine. So instead of 1/2, I have 3/6. Instead of 1/3, I have 2/6. Now we're just going to add them up, because now we're talking about the same thing. And I know that in 4th grade, you guys worked with adding and subtracting like fractions. Now we're at that point. So now it's like I have 3 apples. I had 2 apples. How many apples do I have? I have 5 apples, right? It's the same thing, because this 6 is just what size we're talking about. So that's not going to change. We're still talking about 6. Okay. So we don't add these up. We just say what size piece are we talking about? We're talking about 6. We're still talking about 6. Now it's just how many of those pieces, which is our numerator, right? So we had 3, 6. We added 2 more 6. We have 5, 6. Like I said, it's just like if we had 3 apples, added 2 apples, we'd have 5 apples. We would have 5 something else, right? All right. So now I'm gonna let you do this one with subtractions. It's the exact same thing. The only difference is we're subtracting, but you guys can do that. So go ahead, tackle this one. Okay, so the first thing that you should have done is said, well, first of all, I need to find the common multiple for the denominators, 4 and 8. So I'm just going to do this one in head. If I'm thinking, okay, and I'm always going to start with the lowest one that's just is going to help me. So if I start with 4, got 4, 8, 12. Oh, wait a minute. I just said 8, which is one of the denominators. So I know that I can change this to eighths because we already have eighths over here. 4 times 2 is going to give me 8. So I'm going to do the same on the top, right? If I multiply by 2 on the bottom, I'm going to multiply by 2 on the top. 3 times 2 is 6. So now we've got 6 eighths minus 5 eighths, which is going to give us 1/8. All right, that's what we're going to be working on tomorrow. See you then. Bye-bye.